Welcome to our monthly What's New webinar. Hope everyone's having a real good time. Lots of curious minds probably out there. I'm sure some people that I know in the chat, hopefully. All right, let's get started. Welcome to this month of What's New in Architect. We're going to be talking about the features that we've been furiously working to build and make your journeys easy. My name is Emmanuel Aouad. I'm the Director of Transformation and Operational Excellence at Klarity.
I'm Alex. I'm the Lead Product Manager for Architect at Klarity.
We're super excited to share with you what we've been working on. What we'll go over is we'll do an intro, just for those of you who aren't super familiar with the product, and then we'll spend a majority of the time on the new features, and then we'll go into Q&A. So we'll give you some time to ask questions, and then we'll talk about what's next. We're going to take a few minutes to recap exactly what Klarity is and what it does. You see up here, AI for transformation, but what does that actually mean? We are out here to transform transformation. Before, when you wanted to do any sort of transformation or continuous improvement or operational excellence, this is how you had to solve it. It's been unchanged for decades. You had to organize your value streams. Then you would set up a strategy plan and get some objectives. Also, you could focus your work on assessing a current state. Then you still had to design the future state. Also, you could ultimately start executing on what you wanted to do. The need to focus on a specific value stream was actually driven in the absence of technology that can scale that type of observation, rationalization, process mapping, design. And so it would take 6 months. That's a pretty conservatively generous estimate just as a start so you can start executing that transformation roadmap. And so when we keep saying transformation is hard, it's because it was. Because there was so much ROI though, we kept doing it and we keep doing it. But imagine being able to start your transformation in weeks instead of months. What we set out to do was replace effort. And the complexity of journeys and value streams meant that you couldn't just pick a value stream or a journey and say, we're going to go fix it and we're going to go transform it. You had to spend that time again observing the work people did, synthesize it into some sort of information vehicle, and then chain all of that together. But that meant you had to get down to an altitude that is like 5 layers deep. And that's because the problems you're looking to solve live where the work's being done. When you look at a journey or a value stream like selling goods to a customer and ultimately recognizing that revenue, there are likely hundreds of, sometimes 1,000 of process activities that individual people own to make that value stream function. And so making it scalable is the value proposition that we solve here. It's saving your time, doing things differently, getting that time back and transforming the way that you want to. As someone here might say, it's avoiding the swivel chair operations. No more gathering in conference rooms and wondering if you spent the time on the correct thing. You just have people work, you record or interview them, and ask questions. And so we're bringing that ability to leverage AI to drive value and continue repeating that transformation almost indefinitely across your business. So we're transforming operations, we're transforming how we do automation, and we're transforming how we transform. But most of you are here to see what's new, so let's give you what you are all here for. So the features we're going to cover and what we focused on the last few months is all about making it easier. Making it easier to start with role-based access control. Making it easier to understand your documentation and information with Ask Mode. And also making it easier to keep that documentation and information up to date with the Update with AI feature. I'll quickly cover what they are, why we focused on them, and then I'll turn it over to Alex, the brain, to show you how they work. Role-based access control. This is huge. I was asking for this when I was a customer of Klarity. We've known it was a major blocker to either getting started or turning Klarity loose. So we've introduced roles that you can assign. You have organizational admins, you have workspace admins, you have contributors, and we have viewers. Again, Alex is going to walk through this live, so I'm not going to cover, but it's as simple as adding your users and setting their roles. So you can control your data, you can control your environments, and you can turn the product loose and let everyone get the value and do it in a safe way. So before we go to the next feature, we want to toss a poll out there for all of you. Our question is, what slows your expansion plans when you're onboarding a new product or software? Got a lot of training enablement and the app is confusing.
Makes sense. Probably related.
Yeah, exactly.
You need the more the app is confusing, the more training you need. Ideally, the app itself is
The training, right?
provides, yeah. the context you need to get started.
Just guides you through. We love this kind of feedback as well. Klarity is very customer focused. If you haven't worked with us, we love hearing from customers and how they're using the application, because that also helps us prioritize our roadmap. It's one thing to build something, it's another thing to build it and see how people are actually using it. We have a wonderful crew here. Shout out, Chloe. Second feature that we'll cover, Ask Mode. Why did we introduce this? When you create a document, the entire reason is to have information to reference later when you need it. I'll let Alex talk a little bit about what Ask Mode actually does.
Sure, thanks, Emmanuel. What you're looking at is a pretty big improvement to a feature we built a couple months ago. Originally, this was called the AI editor, and the intent of this was you could request edits to your document. So instead of finding the right section and typing out the bullet points and typing out the text yourself, you could ask for changes like give me more screenshots or turn this section to 3 bullet points to make it more concise. What we found though was really interesting behavior from our users, where a lot of people were not just requesting changes, but also asking questions about their content. So you can imagine a process owner creates a very detailed SOP describing the work they do, and then a colleague comes in a couple weeks later and wants to understand the steps that are taken. But maybe they don't want to go through the entire 20-page document because it's a lot, and they just want a 2 bullet point summary. So we get a lot of users asking questions about things like, summarize this for me. What are the main systems used in this process? Who are the main stakeholders involved so I know who to talk to if I have more questions? And we basically codified this new usage behavior that we were seeing into a more powerful experience, which we're now calling the AI companion. We support 2 modes, edit mode and ask mode. So we're recognizing that people are using this in multiple different ways. We've added things like suggested questions, so to help get the creative juices flowing when you're staring at a blank screen. We've also added things like follow-up questions. So if you're asking about what applications or systems are using this process, depending on the query you make, we'll kind of brainstorm other questions for you to dive in further. And last but not least, we've overhauled the entire experience to be more intuitive and faster. Yeah, that's AI Companion.
Awesome. So another poll, how much time a month, and this is just an estimate, but on average, are you spending searching for information or asking questions or synthesizing other information to come up with different conclusions? Ooh, over 10 hours.
It's a lot.
And I'm guessing that's pretty frustrating, right? You know it's there, you captured it at some point, and you pocketed it so that when it was time to do something, it would be ready. And the last thing you want to do is be ready to leap into action and then say, wait, now I got to look through the documentation and synthesize it and rationalize it and understand that. And that's exactly what Ask AI is meant to do, right? The AI companion is meant to, again, reduce that effort associated with searching for information, capturing information, synthesizing it, and presenting it to you in the way that you need it so you can do the next task or project that you need to do.
I feel like so much of corporate life is trying to figure out where to find something.
Yeah.
You look in your docs, you look in Slack teams, you ask someone, and they send you the link, and then you look at the link and it's outdated.
Exactly. Or you don't have the context and it's a document that's 25, 30 pages long, and you're like, I just wanted to know what system I needed to go to submit this expense report. So
Yeah, definitely empathize with the over 10 hours crowd over here.
yeah, exactly. So the third feature, and again, we're going to demo these all. I know I'm going through quick, but I want to give the product team their time to shine. These are the real heavy lifters out here. AI process updates, or update with AI. Every second that passes when you document something is a second that your document has the possibility to become outdated and obsolete. And so it's definitely difficult to keep those things up to date. And we wanted to solve that. So we introduced Update with AI. Again, making it easier to observe, create, and maintain these different information vehicles so that when they're needed and you're ready to do something, they are ready for you. And so you simply record a video or bring your new document, click the Update with new input, and then add it as an input file and run your operation. Architect will analyze the new content and it will add it to your document. If you want to dive a little bit deeper into or add anything that I missed.
No, I think you covered it all. I guess the one thing I'll add is, just more broadly, you can see a recurring theme of we've invested a lot of effort to make it easy to edit things over time. Architect started out as a pretty simple upload your inputs, get a document out, product, single feature product. And the feedback we heard from our users again and again is, like Emmanuel said, things change over time. And just as important as getting the first pass is being able to edit it easily to modify it as things change over time in your company, in your team. So the AI companion is one way to do that. It's better for smaller and tactical changes. So if you want to rewrite something or if you want to add another screenshot to some of your walkthrough steps, these types of targeted changes are really good for the AI companion. Whereas this feature Emmanuel just shared, the AI process updates, is more for like larger picture, like wholesale changes. Like you've added an entire new set of tasks that have to be done for this finance process, for example. And in this case, it might make more sense to add entirely new inputs, like a new video snippet, a new document, even a PDF from a vendor whose software may have changed from a software update. So this is great for kind of bigger, meatier changes, whereas the AI companion is more suitable for quick and easy changes. And then, of course, we've built a document editor into the app itself. It looks like Microsoft Word, acts like Microsoft Word, and you can just type out changes yourself there. So a couple different modes to edit since it's so important for our users.
So third and final poll. I know I'm asking you a lot of questions and you came to ask us questions, but again, we want to hear from you and understand what you're facing, the problems, the hurdles. What percentage of your documentation is kept up to date in real time? Almost nothing. I mean, it's important, but it's hard. And I'll say this, y'all are probably tired of hearing me say this, but nobody documents because they want to document. You write something down because you either want to bring stability to your process so that you can deliver quality outcomes to the value stream or the journey to the customer at the end, or you're documenting it because you want to analyze it and make it better. And the actual documentation, we all know as humans, like it's not fun. We don't want to do it. The fun part and the exhilarating part is bringing the stability or making it better. And so while important, when faced with two options or the priorities of I can focus on making something else better, or I can focus on trying to update this document. One of those is definitely going to drive a little bit more value than the other, but it doesn't mean that the first one is not important.
It's low-key, one third reason I'll add to Emmanuel's list of why document that I personally do a lot is people keep on asking me questions about stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to answer these questions anymore. I write up a doc codifying what's in my brain, and hopefully they go to that. Sometimes they don't, but try.
I'm guilty. Sometimes I do it, and I try to always go search for a document first because I'm like, Alex probably already wrote this down. Let me double check before I ask him on Slack.
Yeah, more of a selfish reason as a process owner as opposed to the more noble reasons I've laid out as a transformation team.
But still, when people are asking you questions that you don't necessarily need to be the one to answer it. You just need to provide the information, right? If you're spending time doing that, it takes your time away from being able to make this product, right? And so still, I think pulling that out, while it's selfish, it's still a little bit noble because you're trying to focus your time on transforming transformation.
That's true.
Don't undersell yourself. He's so humble. He's so humble.
Yeah. On that train of thought, I'm imagining like a future world where we have this even more powerful AI and everyone has an AI assistant that like blocks these questions.
Yeah, exactly.
You have these AI agents going back and forth in endless loops.
That would be great. We'll do a Slack integration. It will check if there's documentation in Klarity, and it'll say, hey, no, this person, no, don't ask them the question. Here's the document. All right, well, with that being said, I'm actually going to turn it over to Alex to run the live demos. So here, I'll bring the laptop over here so you can start.
Awesome. So a couple of features we talked about today. There's RBAC, there is the AI companion, and then there's the AI process updates. I will probably start with RBAC. It might not work that well because this is an internal workspace, so we actually have no users to show because it's all internal users. But we can still show some of the functionality here. So a couple of neat things I'll call out. One is we've brushed up the overall user management experience in general to be a bit more powerful. So we've added filters. So as an admin, you can easily see the number of users on each role, and also you can filter for them to see exactly who they are. Second thing I'll add is we demoed this earlier in the slides, but the experience for interacting with RBAC is pretty straightforward. You can invite new users, which has always been possible. And the net new thing here, notice here, is a role dropdown. So to add a bit more color to RBAC, we started out this feature with 4 key user roles. Going from most expansive to most restrictive, you have the organization admin. These will typically be small in number, maybe 1 to 3 people per company. These have access to everything, basically, all features in the app, including org-specific features like usage analytics and usage logs. Then we have the workspace admin. So just for some context on how our users are using RBAC today, Generally, most users in an org will be workspace admin or contributor. The key difference is that workspace admins can, in addition to contributor access, they can create and edit templates. So these are pretty uncommon actions. Usually what our users do is they'll workshop the template, maybe do a couple iterations, get it to a point that they really like. So they like the content, they like the formatting, it's branded, it feels like a document that they're proud of and that represents their company or their team. Once they have that template to a point where they're happy with it, usually they kind of just set it and forget it. So people won't modify templates that much after this point. They're mostly running operations using this template to create documents they like. So that's why we've scoped this to workspace admins. We generally don't want people kind of futzing with templates too much after it's in a good place. And then the other main thing that workspace admins can do is to manage users. So they can add additional users, they can modify user configs. So if you misspelled someone's name or misspelled their email, you can fix that easily. This is all editable after the fact. And you can also change user permissions. So if you've accidentally invited someone as an org admin, but you're like, oh, for security reasons, we want to lock this down and we want to change them, a couple people over a contributor, your workspace admins and org admins can do this, and the other two roles cannot. So that's the workspace admin. Then we have contributors. So most people generally fall into this bucket. Think of contributors as process owners, core users who can create and modify content. They can use the AI interviewer. They can run operations and modify documents using the AI companion or using the update feature. They can do most things that you'd want general casual users to be doing that. And then last but not least, we have viewers. So this is pretty intuitive. They can view content. They cannot make any changes. I believe they also they can download, but they can't make any changes. They can't delete. They can't create new things. So these are our 4 user roles, and we're always taking feedback. So if you have questions or if you have other roles you want to use in your company that has a slightly different set of entitlements, feel free to let us know.
On the next one, ask mode. So yeah, like I said, we don't just capture the information for the sake of capturing it. There's something that you want to do with it. So Alex will show you ask mode.
Cool. So for ask mode, I'm going to bring up a document that was generated in Architect. In a bit of a meta way, our CSM actually generated this document to talk about how to generate document Architect, which is a little circular. But so here we have the document, we have the AI companion on the left-hand side. As we talked about earlier, we have these 2 different modes, ask mode and edit mode. Ask mode is great for asking questions to understand this content, and edit mode is great for requesting changes to the document. You can see here that we have a couple starter questions, things like which teams are involved, or what are the potential risks, or what systems are used. These are the types of questions that we see our users asking a lot about their process documentation. So let's start with this one. We'll say, which teams are involved in this? And it usually takes a couple seconds. There are some types of questions that are heavier, where the AI bot will actually go back and inspect the actual input content. So if you ask for things like, give me more screenshots, we recognize that not all screenshots are reflected in the document. In fact, the screenshot you're looking for probably isn't there because that's why you're asking this question. So we'll go back and look at the entire video that you've uploaded, inspect hundreds or even thousands of video frames to try to look for a better image for you. So there's some queries that take a bit longer based on what you're asking. But for stuff like this, which is just a text response about which teams are involved, it's pretty straightforward. So in this case, there's end users who are viewing the material and generating documents. There's system administrators who are responsible for managing templates, going back to the RBAC feature we just talked about. And then there's support, the team that the end user will reach out to if there's any issues with the product. So get some of the follow-up questions here. These are curated based on the questions you ask. So it's not going to go off and suggest random questions, because we often have AI features that spat out random nonsense that's not really what you're looking for. In this case, we care a lot about creating questions that kind of fit the train of thought that you're having in case you want to dig in further. So in this case, it's what kind of support is provided? Are there other roles involved in template creation? Let's click on this one, going on the theme of AI companion plus RBAC together. Based on the document, in addition to system admins, your own team can design and edit custom templates. Document also mentions that Klarity built the default templates. Okay, so let's give you a bit more context on how templates work. So yeah, that's ask mode. We can also ask custom questions, obviously. So I can say, let's do something like summarize this process in 2 bullet points. We've got a typo, that's totally fine. It is resilient to typos. Okay, pretty straightforward, 2 bullet points. First step is preparation. You create a folder, you upload your input files, and you ensure file type compatibility. Second step is to actually run the operation to generate the document. That is pretty much Architect in a nutshell. That is our core flow. You can do a lot of other fancy things like run insights and set up your org's process hierarchy, but no doubt the most atomic nugget of value we give to our users is this unstructured inputs like video content into really detailed polished process document, and it seems like I captured it pretty well here.
Before we go into the final one, I gotta make sure we do our plugs. If you're enjoying it so far, make sure you book a demo. So scan this QR. I'm pointing at a screen that you can't see, but scan the QR on the screen, and we have amazing teams of people who are more than excited to show you how Architect can help you transform the way you transform and just transform the way you work. So I'll tee up update with AI. Like I said, information is never static. And when making decisions to change, like that probability of getting the right decision hinges on having your most up-to-date, accurate information. And so to solve for this, customers were either rerunning their documents or they just weren't running it at all because they're focused on actually delivering the value. And so Alex will show you what we introduced to make it as seamless as possible with the update with AI.
Cool, thanks, Emmanuel. So update with AI is another very powerful feature. Again, it's one of 3 ways to modify your content and keep up to date. First is change it yourself in the document editor. Second one is the edit mode in the AI companion, where you can request smaller bite-sized changes. And then the third mode, the most powerful one, which is also the kind of most powerful and also the slowest one, is this AI for process updates. So I'll show how that works right here. If you go to this More menu, you have this option to update with new inputs. And let's call this updated architect training doc. And you simply create a name as we just did. You select some files to some new files or new content you want to use to update. So we support a couple ways to do this. You can either update new files from your computer, or if you already have an architect, you can select existing files. So I'll do something like that. Let's do our colleague Michael Long's interview session. I actually don't know what content he put here. So one caveat is the output might not make sense because we're taking 2 things that semantically might be very different. We have our architect training doc, and we have Michael, God bless him, his interview session, which could be about any topic. I need to sync with him after this. But for demo purposes, we'll just use this combination. And what'll happen under the hood is Architect will basically take the existing document as a starting point, scan through all the content, figure out what's there, kind of form an understanding of what the process is that's being described here. It'll scan through our friend Michael's video session and then semantically understand what process Michael's talking through, and it'll try its best to mesh the 2 together. So a couple examples of this is if you have a process that has gotten more complex and you want to add a couple new steps at the end of it, Architect should be able to recognize this relationship of kind of first and second, and it'll add the new steps to the very end. If you have, and there's obviously different ways that files can relate to each other. If you have a existing document and the net new information conflicts with existing content to some extent, you could have steps 5, 6, 7 are actually different now based on the new input materials. Architect will merge these 2 together, understand the difference, and update steps 5, 6, 7 to reflect the new information. And then there's myriad different ways that the content can be meshed together. But Architect will try very hard to semantically understand in a first principles way what's in the original, what's in the new, and what makes sense for them to put together. And it's not just the walkthrough steps. It'll also understand and update all the other analysis sections. If you have things like pain points, and your pain point was this step is very manual, but from the new content you upload, it's actually automated now because of some process improvement thing your company did. It should remove that this is very manual pain point because it recognizes it's no longer the case. So a very powerful way to encode updates into existing content. With that said, we'll select a folder to save this new output, click run, and then the operation will then get chugging along. There's actually not too much in terms of UI that we can show here. You'll just see this loading state for a while as it's chugging through the material and understanding and meshing it together. All the magic is happening via the AI analysis in the backend, which is kind of what I just described.
We can let this run and probably come back to it and then flash this again. Make sure you book your demo today. With that being said, while we're waiting for that document to run, let's open it up to Q&A. Anything that you want to ask us or anything you want to know, and then we'll close it out with what's next. And just to throw it another loop, I added in the revenue recognition process.
nice.
So we are doing the complete triangulation of different things. No questions out there? That means that these are so good, just like back at the enablement and training, there are no questions. And that's how it should be. Make the product so easy that there is no training and enablement. But we still have some folks too, while we're waiting for questions. We have an event coming up, and if you've never been to one of our events, they are pretty live. Wednesday, September 3rd, we have the AI Outcomes for CFOs, New York City edition. And so scan this, register. We have plenty of other things planned as well, and we have some outreach to customers so that we can continue collecting your feedback. If you're an existing customer, reach out to us though. We want to hear what you're trying to do. We love hearing creative ways that people are using the platform. I mean, that's how I got hired, right? So yeah, if there aren't any questions, we'll just wait for the document to finish, and see, now that one's on me. I shouldn't have thrown that 200, that extra 200 megs.
Yeah, this one takes a while depending on how long the document is, how complex the new inputs are. And we've really thrown a curveball at it with Mike Long's interview, which could be about anything really, revenue recognition, and the AI and the architect training guide together. So
it's very interesting though when you think about it. Right? When I used to have to do this manually, the way that we would handle this, and I'm thinking back to going the back of my days, I used to process map back and forth to school, uphill in the snow both ways. We would physically go sit with the teams that we supported, and we would just do side-by-sides. 1 to 2 hours every Friday, different members, and we'd say, hey, show us one of the processes that you're doing, and we would pre-review it before we went to go sit with them, and we would just observe, and we'd take notes, and we'd see what was different. If it was the same, then we knew that the process was stable. If it was different, we'd ask questions to understand, oh, why did you do this step? They might say, oh, well, they changed something in the platform, and so I had to create this workaround, right? Then we knew after observing and asking the question that the process has changed. And so then we would have to rewrite the documents, create the new flow charts, and then we had a change advisory board every 2 weeks. And so we take all the materials that we're changing, the user-facing material, the updated process maps, the policy and procedures, because it was a very heavily regulated industry, and people would opine on it. And if everything met the criteria that it was able to ship and make the change, then you would go make the updates and you get approved. If it was wrong, you would get a deferred and come back in a couple of weeks when you've done your due diligence and got the things updated. And that's perfect timing. I was really just trying to buy us some time. So this is a completely new training document that was created based off of this. So let's see what it brought in.
it looks pretty focused on architect training still. Not too much on revenue recognition. This can happen sometimes if the files are semantically very different, which was the case in this scenario. I think I'm seeing something here. So some bullet points on observed pain points regarding AI interviews and the recording limit. That's probably coming over from Mike's interview, since that's the feature he was using. Don't think we had anything about that in the training guide originally, which is more focused on the core generated document flow.
That is so interesting because technically that still is an issue when capturing the information. And so we would not have gotten that in the standard training document. And so these are the types of things that we were doing over 2 weeks to go to the change advisory board to only potentially get the change through. So architect did that in what, 2 to 3 minutes? And if it's wrong, it's not like you have to go back and do another week of effort, physically, manually changing the process map, updating the steps. You just come to Ask AI or edit with AI, and you can tell it what was wrong, and it can update that on the fly. Transformation should not be that hard. So we'll be back with, I think our next webinar we're not doing one in August, right? We're going to skip that because we have the New York City event, but we will probably come back in October with another webinar. Again, reach out and book a demo today. We'll see you later. Appreciate everyone for joining.